There was so much buzz and talk and rumors, especially by Bears fans, but other teams as well, about the status of what was going to happen with Russell Wilson heading into last season or last offseason. He might want out. He has some preferred destinations of where he'd want to go. Places like Dallas and the Saints and the Bears. Oh my! Made you wonder, was there smoke here to this fire? Was it just, a bunch of bullshit? Well, in the short term, nothing happened. Russell Wilson was brought back to the Seahawks in 2021, and they were going to run it back again. That said, maybe they should have pulled the trigger then. Because it's not like the 2021 season was exactly a banger for the Seattle Seahawks. They were 3-5 heading into the bye. And, you have a team that's built around Russell Wilson in the offense, but the offense is okay, but not spectacular. That defense is really bad, which, this is a unit that's been invested heavily in. You gave up multiple first-round picks to bring in a Jamal Adams, which is an indication of you going all in, and then your defense really, really sucks. And then, of course, you have Russell Wilson missing the 3 games due to the injury. And to his credit, that's part of the reason why you're 3-5 heading into the bye. Russell Wilson came back pretty quickly from the injury, but you could tell he wasn't the same. You could tell he wasn't the peak form. You could tell the hand injury was bothering him, and just it didn't go well. And they were 4-5 the rest of the way, and here you sit. The Seattle Seahawks having the most valuable commodity you can have, legitimately, a franchise quarterback, and they're finishing 7-10. It is an important reminder of, yes, the quarterback position is incredibly vitally important. Them missing Russell Wilson for 3 games did not help. Russell Wilson rushing back from injury and not being 100% most of the rest of the season did not help. But the quarterback and quarterback alone is not enough. You have to have more. And it is very clear and obvious watching the Seahawks team in 2021 just how much they're lacking. That's why they were 7-10. That's why they were butt naked last in the division. It wasn't just the injuries to Russ. You only got 10 games out of Rashad Penny, 4 games out of Chris Carson. That's why they were middle of the pack offense and middle of the pack in basically every way you could think of. It's the same, too, when you look, you say, okay, you've got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You have 2 pretty solid wide receivers. Yeah, but that ain't all it takes, you know what I mean? But their defense was absolutely atrocious in terms of how often they would get carved up. Now, they would tighten up and not give up a shit ton of points. They were 9th in the league in points allowed per game, but 28th in the league in yards per game. But part of that is the fact of, you had several games where other teams didn't have to score as much because they knew they were facing a Geno Smith-led offense. And it's kind of the phenomenon with the Bears over the years is that the Bears' offense was even a little bit better. Their defense would actually get more exposed because teams would be forced to take more chances and have to score more points. They could play it closer to the vest, which naturally pads those defensive numbers. But it was a season with Russell Wilson in his 30s where you shit the bed. So what's going to happen with him? Well, by God, we found out the answer, didn't we? The Seahawks decided that the time was now to move on and focus on the next generation of the Seattle Seahawks organization. Russell Wilson has been dealt to the Denver Broncos in exchange for multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, former first-round pick tight end Noah Fant, Drew Lock. That's a lot. If you're going to do it, at least get a lot of draft pick capital in return. And at least you can say from the standpoint of the Seattle Seahawks, they got that. They did not give away Russell Wilson. They got a lot in return. And you might say, well, they're crazy for making this trade. Are they, though? Are they? I don't think they are. I think this trade in and of itself makes all the absolute sense in the fucking world. You've had Russ for a decade, and you're several years away from your real championship contending window, and you're not getting any closer to it. At what point in time do you have to rethink how you do the operation? And Russell Wilson's going to be, 34 this year? He's not exactly coming off of playing peak football. I don't think he's been great for 2 or 3 years now, frankly. And I think that you have that chance, especially if it was going to be in Seattle, where he could drop off a cliff pretty precipitously. The trade to Denver might actually help him play some more great football later in his career. I think it wouldn't necessarily be the same case in Seattle. And you've built up some weapons around him, but you still have failed to effectively address the offensive line, and the defense sucks. No, it absolutely made sense for them to trade Russell Wilson. If anything, I would have said they waited a year too damn late. the more illogical thing to me is, why are you holding on to the 70-year-old head coach when you're clearly going into rebuild mode? That doesn't make a lot of fucking sense. And if you're a Seahawks fan, I totally support you legitimately questioning whether or not you have any faith in John Schneider and Pete Carroll to utilize that draft pick capital in an effective way. Looking at their recent draft history, it is a very important and very valid question to ask. Why in the fuck would you have any confidence in them? Like, seriously, if you did, I would say, what makes you think, based off of recent history, that these guys know what the fuck they're doing with the draft anymore? What makes you think that they could actually build this organization, this team, back into a contender in the next couple of years? What makes you think that they'd be able to identify their next Russell Wilson, their next franchise quarterback? What makes you think they could build up a high-level offense or a high-level defense? What makes you think any of that? You have to wonder, was this move for Russell Wilson, trading him away, spawned in any part by the Seahawks looking at their draft position and saying, hey, we look at this and we say, we like a quarterback in this draft? I don't think that's the case. I think this is much more of a case of, they just wanted to get out from Russell Wilson. They wanted to get out from that contract. Especially if you start thinking, you really want to pay Mahomes money to a Russell Wilson at that point in time, I'd be like, you know what? I got you. I agree. Like, it's time to go. So they got a ton of draft pick capital, but of course they don't have, necessarily the quarterback in this draft that appears to be the guy that they could pursue. So maybe you'll get a year of Drew Lock. Who the fuck knows? Ooh. But now the Seahawks have made the deal. They've released Bobby Wagner. So you're looking at the quarterback of the defense of Wagner and the quarterback of the offense of the team and Russell Wilson. These guys been there for a decade. They're both gone now. It's certainly a new era in Seattle Seahawks football, and maybe it was the right time for that. But now that you've done that, you have to rethink how you rebuild this team. It starts at the quarterback position. You got to find a quarterback in this offseason. And if you don't, you're basically saying we're going to tank it and try to go into 2023, which at that point in time, again, I would say, why in the fuck is Pete Carroll still the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks? He's damn 70 years old. How much longer do you think he's going to be there naturally anyways? Why would you want him involved with the rebuild? But once you do that, you've got to address that offensive line, the interior especially the two guard spots. If you're not bringing back Brown, obviously left tackle as well. Then a running back that you actually count on to stay healthy and stay on the damn field. Too many injuries for Chris Carson, Rashad Penny. Even if you like him, at what point in time do you say enough is enough? We need a guy that we can actually count on to be durable, reliable, and fucking be there. And when you look at the kind of nature of the NFL, do either one of those types of guys, or even in Alex Collins, really fit the modern mold for what you need if you're trying to play high-level offense or become a championship contending team? And the answer is no. Certainly, when you look at their defense, they still have needs in the secondary, especially at corner. On the defensive front, yes, but whatever picks you have, whatever money you want to spend this offseason needs to be spent. They've got, quite a bit of cap space, even though they eat a ton of dead cap with Russell Wilson trade. You have to build up that offense. Again, this is an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and start over, and you do that by building up your offense, not trying to rebuild through the draft on defense. And that's the piece that would concern me if I'm a Seahawks fan with Carroll and Schneider. Is that the way they're going to approach it? Because based off of the recent history, there is no reason for confidence that Schneider, very little reason to expect that John Schneider and Pete Carroll know what the hell they're doing.